Hello, everybody. This is attorney Kevin Pritchett bringing you another episode of the Keeping It Real Straight Smoke Legal podcast. First, a word from our disclaimer department. This podcast is designed to be for general information uses only. It is not designed to be legal, financial, or accounting advice. Should you seek such advice, you should get the advice of competent counsel in those areas. Okay, my friends, today we're continuing with the series I've been doing on corporate real estate and corporate assets, the issues involved with them and how to address them. We started in the first episode of just how to hold regular real estate that's your personal property. Then I talked about how to hold corporate property, how to own property with other people, including spouses, the corporate succession issues involved with holding corporate assets, how to keep the corporate protection when you own corporate assets. And today I'm going to go over some other common issues, by no means all of them, but just some common issues with investment assets that you might see. Okay, let's say that there is a piece of property and it has a mortgage on it. There's an individual, Tony Stark, is the mortgagor. That is the person who has the mortgage. I think that's right. And then the investment real estate is owned by the entity. What are the issues there? Let's say that Tony Stark dies. He is the one who took out the mortgage. The property is owned by the entity, let's say an LLC, but Tony Stark dies. The mortgage was in his name. Does that mean the company does not have to pay the mortgage? Absolutely not. Why? Because the bank, when they issued the mortgage, whoever it was issued to, whether it's Tony Stark or whether it's to the company, the bank is taking its collateral out on the property. So no matter who took the mortgage out, if the mortgage doesn't get paid, the bank can come and foreclose on the property and take it back. So the message is the mortgage must be paid. Even though Tony Stark was the one that entered into the mortgage and the corporation didn't, the bank took the collateral, took the property as its collateral. If it doesn't get paid, that is, the bank doesn't get paid, it can take its collateral back in foreclosure, no matter, even if the entity did not take out the mortgage. Okay, another scenario. The corporation is the one that took out the mortgage, and the corporation or the other entity owns the real estate. So Stark Industries took out the mortgage, and Tony Stark gave a personal guarantee. Tony Stark passes away. Stark Industries owns the real estate. No difference. The mortgage must be paid. Why? Keep your eye on what the bank took out as its collateral, which is the property. It doesn't matter who owns the property. It's kind of a trick question, whether it's the entity, individual, personal guarantee, no guarantee. The bank took its collateral out on the property. So if the mortgage doesn't get paid, the bank can come back against can take its collateral back, can foreclose and take the property. Answer to this conundrum is you must pay the mortgage. Now, in an entity situation, company, generally the company takes out an insurance policy on the key person who took out the mortgage. Let's say Tony Stark took out the mortgage and had to give a personal guarantee. Let's say he gave a personal guarantee, but the company owns the real estate. What generally happens, and let's say Tony wanted to leave this property to his heirs or some other people in the company. The way to handle this is that the company takes out and pays for a life insurance policy. in the amount of the mortgage, takes it out on Tony Stark. The company pays for the insurance policy. And if the mortgage were $500,000, the insurance policy is going to be $500,000 payable to the company. So Tony Stark dies. Company gets the insurance proceeds. The company can pay off the mortgage or use that money to make the mortgage payments. But that's typically how a company handles corporate mortgages. Okay, so the wrong way would be if you just had Tony Stark, didn't do anything else. Why? Because Tony Stark would die. There wouldn't be anybody that would own the property if he was the one that owned it. Probate, we talked about that before. Eliminates the asset protection because Tony Stark is the owner. So if you need succession language. Part of what I talked about in this podcast was buying the insurance policy, saying that the company owns the policy, what the company can do with the proceeds of the policy. That's part of the succession language. Who gets the proceeds, what they're used for, what the process is to value the asset that's being protected, etc., etc. Having this process, and it's going to be case by case, dependent on each particular situation. That's why if you have this scenario, you need to come in, get a consultation, so I can let you know what would be needed in order to protect this situation, to have it done right. As always, the wrong way is to avoid all of this. No succession language, no life insurance policy, owned by an individual, and you have the danger of probate, expense, delays. You have the added problem, potential problem of the corporate protection not being available either. As I said, the right way, you put all these provisions in the succession language in the operating entity or in the bylaws. So again, you've got a choice. You now know what the issue is. You know some ways to avoid it. By no means does this podcast, do I on this podcast attempt to give you all the solutions to these problems. The solutions are as varied and specific as each individual situation. So if you want to know, or if you have questions about any of this, there's a link below the video on this podcast where you can sign up for a one-on-one consultation. And I can go through your situation. You can tell me what your objectives are, and I can let you know specifically how you can address these issues. Okay, my friends, that's all for today's Keeping It Real podcast. If you have questions, get the consultation, because nothing gets better with neglect. Okay, Attorney Kevin Pritchett signing off. See you next time.